Hey, everybody. Welcome into the show. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzetta Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. I sit before you today here, a beaten man after last night's Phillies game. There was a 2-hour and 45-minute rain delay, and I felt fantastic. I wasn't tired, wasn't nothing. And then the minute the first pitch was thrown, when they came back, I was like, oh, okay, I think I'm pretty tired right now. And that only went because, of course, it did into extra innings because your Phillies did a really interesting thing where they went 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position as a team. Nick Castellanos, Alec Bohm combined 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position, and this was in their new position in the batting order. Castellanos was moved to the 4 spot to hit cleanup for a struggling Alec Bohm, who was moved down to the 7 spot. And as we even talked about yesterday, I talked about it on the postcasts as well. Hey, Alec Bohm really doesn't look like a guy who should be hitting, cleanup right now. And sure enough, nothing changed. Well, something did change. Castellanos was actually doing really well, and then 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts yesterday. And Alec Bohm continued to swing early in counts, have zero patience, and basically look like a guy that was in an absolute hurry to condition his hair, to get back in the clubhouse, condition his hair before he was ever interested in actually hitting a baseball. The thing that drives me crazy is that on a lot of these pitches, forget about the idea that he's swinging early in counts. He's guessing right and missing on a lot of these pitches. That's more troublesome. He hit the ball on the screws a couple of times yesterday, but still not producing at all, and nowhere near producing to the point of, well, yeah, he can be aggressive in counts, and this is where it bothers me. If you're struggling this much, let the game come to you, man. Don't force it. Did he have a line out in the second inning? Yeah, whoopity-doo. But did he also lunge at a second pitch changeup in the 11th inning where the Phillies were actually trying to put something together for themselves? Yeah, he did that again too. People, and I heard the question come up in the press conference last night with Rob Thompson, and I hear this question a lot on the postcast. Hey, sometimes you got to give the team, the opposing team credit. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes you do. This isn't one of those instances. When you throw 5 straight put-out pitches to Nick Castellanos on the outside corner of the plate or on the far nowhere near outside corner of the plate, and he lunges at it like he's trying to net a fish that just jumped off the hook, then that's not the other pitcher be like, hey, great stuff. No, that's fooling a guy that just can't lay off it. That's his mistake more than it is some great pitch by the pitcher. And that's what I saw from Castellanos yesterday, which is actually a few and far between thing that we have seen so far this year. And when I see Alec Bohm continuing to not let the game come to him, I'm not crediting the pitcher on that, especially if it's Alec Bohm just missing pitches or like the changeup, for instance, in extra innings. That's him just making a really, really, really bad decision. So we'll go through the game, the 2 hours and 45 minutes. Hey, they got an episode of Greatest Sports Legends Then and Now in, huh? Did you catch that? And then the Philadelphia Eagles added a wide receiver. Terrence Marshall Jr., formerly out of LSU, a second-round pick. The Eagles become his 5th NFL team. He was practice squatted by or 4th NFL team, excuse me. Panthers, 49ers, Raiders, Eagles. 4th NFL team in 5 years after being that second-round pick out of LSU. Not a good sign, obviously. A bigger wide receiver, 6'2", 4.4 speed. At least he did at the combine. Why it hasn't worked for him? Well, let's see. The Panthers suck. The 49ers kind of know what they're doing, so surprisingly he didn't make it off the practice squad. And the Raiders also suck. Could he be a camp body? Sure, he could just be a camp body. But you never know. But they added depth. At this point, the move is a depth move well before training camp. But there's some kind of interest there, and I would go ahead and assume that being that he was in Carolina for 3 years, Frank Reich had something to say about it, and I'm sure that Nick Sirianni hit up Frank Reich. Hey, what do you think about this guy? Or Howie Roseman hit up Frank. What do you think about this guy? The now, what is he? The interim coach at Stanford? Go figure. So they had some depth in that situation, but it was a bit of a long one last night when it came to the Philadelphia Phillies and what they had going on in Atlanta. And I told you before the series, and I'm going to reiterate it now. I don't care what the Braves' record was going into this series. I don't care what the Phillies' record was going into this series. It was the first time you met the Atlanta Braves. And were the Braves going to be a team that was going to lie down because they had gotten swept by the Dodgers? Were they going to be a team that was going to lie down because they got swept by the San Diego Padres? Were they going to lie down because they only played 2 games in Miami before being rained out and splitting those 2 games? No, they weren't at all going to just lay down for the Phillies. They were going to look at the Phillies like this was going to be their statement game. And last night, as I go through the play-by-play of this game, it was another frustrating offensive performance. And one of the most frustrating things about this game came after the rain delay. Because Jesus Luzardo, not great last night by any means, but still 6 innings, 1 run, 6 hits, gave up a walk, 6 strikeouts. He was good, not great, but good. The end result was great. 6 innings, 1 run. That's pretty damn good. But the bullpen was great last night. And they blew it still in extra innings because of their offense. After the game, Rob Thompson said that he didn't want to get to Joe Ross. He didn't want to get to Jose Ruiz. Those guys were Ruiz didn't pitch last night, but he didn't want to get to those guys because they were emergency guys. Well, the first emergency guy that he got to in last night's game, by his standard, I guess, that he set last night, was Joe Ross. And that's not somebody he wanted to get to in this game. And overall, if you look at the bullpen, Hernandez came in there to pitch in the 7th inning after the rain delay. He was good, got 2 strikeouts, issued a walk, gave up a hit. But other than that, didn't let anybody cross the plate. Slammed the door when he had to slam the door. Jordan Romano goes out there last night. Scoreless frame. He shaved his beard and kept the stash. I guess it had a positive effect. He was great last night. Matt Strahm goes out there. Strikes out 2 in the 8th inning. Or excuse me, in the 9th inning. Just 20 pitches to get through that one. Not bad. By the way, I say just 20 pitches because with the strike zone last night by Mark Carlson, it was by far the most fluid strike zone of the season. It was tight at times. It was long at times. It was wide at times. It was re-damn-diculous is the only way to put it. So Matt Strahm gets through that inning. Tanner Banks, 14 pitches in the 10th inning, gets through that. And then Joe Ross, who was supposed to be the emergency guy, that wasn't good. The Braves made quick work of him. But so the Phillies lose this game in a game where the bullpen actually performed well. But again, your offense was terrible. Phillies start things off in the 1st inning again with the new lineup. New lineup doesn't affect the 1st inning. It's a 1-2-3 1st inning. Bottom of the 1st inning, Albies goes out there. He strikes out on a slider. Great slider by Jose Alvarado. We had that working for him last night. Then he walks Austin Riley on 4 pitches. Ozuna gets the double. Olsen steps up to the plate, grounds out to second base, but it ends up being an RBI ground out. 1-0 Braves, just like that after the 1st inning. And that was it. That was the only run that they got out of Jesus Luzardo, excuse me. 2nd inning, Nick Castellanos strikes out for the first time of 5. And guess what he was doing? Chasing a low and outside slider. Kepler gets the hit. Real Muto steps up there. He strikes out 3-2 slider, 9-pitch at bat, so he worked that. Bohm steps up for the first time, actually takes a couple of pitches, and then he gets a sinker. He guesses right, takes a hack, if you will, and lines out to second base. Hit it on the screws. If he would have been able to put that one in the right center field gap, then maybe you're talking about a run there with Kepler. But unfortunately, it wasn't in the cards. You get into a situation where you let a leadoff double to De La Cruz on a slider down the middle that he just put into the outfield in the right spot. And then Fairchild comes up, lays down a sacrifice bunt. They get the 1-4 fielder's choice. And then Harris steps up there. They strike him out on a sweeper, getting him to chase a sweeper. And Allen grounds out to third. Bohm has been great in the field, just terrible at the plate. It was another instance of that happening there with Allen grounding out to third base. 10-pitch 2nd inning for Jesus Luzardo. So he's got it working for himself. Offensively, though, and that was pretty much the way it went for Jesus Luzardo in his 6 innings of work. But the offense is what got you. 3rd inning, Bryson Stott led off with a single. Brandon Marsh, who, again, is another guy who's just ice cold right now for the Phillies, he grounds into a double play, so that's that. The reason that sucked so bad was that the Phillies are down 1-0. Marsh doesn't ground into that. Marsh strikes out, whatever. He's still got 1 base runner. Kyle Schwarber comes up next in the inning, and Kyle Schwarber hits a solo home run. His 6th home run of the season. It's at least a 2-run shot if you get something going in that way. And you get 2 runs on the board and take the lead. There's a couple of reasons why that's helpful. Well, obviously it's a lead, and maybe, just maybe, with the game being, well, not tied 1-1 in the 6th inning, so it's a game, it's officially a game, maybe they call it and you don't come back out 2 hours and 45 minutes later. So the Phillies go in then in the 4th inning. They get another opportunity there. They get back-to-back 2-out singles by Max Kepler and JT Realmuto. Runners on first and second with 2 outs. Bohm steps up there, grounds out to second base to kill that opportunity. 5th inning, Bryson Stott leads off again by getting on base, this time by way of a walk. Trey Turner steps up there. He gets a double, an out later. Nick Castellanos' turn to kill any opportunity of a threat there by striking out again. Then in the 6th inning, right before the rain delay, JT Realmuto gets a 1-out single, and Bohm grounds into a 1-4-3 double play. All this, I mean, I hate to call it rally killing with a lot of these coming down with 2 outs, but all this happening to kill any chance of some 2-out lightning. We'll put it like that. Last night, you didn't have Orion Kirkering and Jose Alvarado available. Like I said, Joe Ross and Jose Ruiz were supposed to be your guys that were emergencies. Joe Ross, the only emergency, and that emergency certainly did not work out. As for Rob Thompson and the change in the lineup, if batting cleanup got to Castellanos at all.
See Nick just kind of get out of what he's been doing?
Yeah.
Is that just he's in the cleanup spot maybe, and he's just trying to do?
No, I don't think so.
That was.
I think you got to give their pitchers some credit because they got him out of the zone, especially Schwellenbach's got good stuff, and he can really locate his stuff, and it's in the zone to out of the zone. He got Nick. So.
What did you think of Bohm's at bats? He hit that one on the screws in the 1st inning.
Yeah, and then flew out to the track. Yeah, they're better. Yeah.
I can't call that better from Bohm last night. I don't understand. I really don't understand when you're having as many struggles as Alec Bohm. And look, I know everyone, and I feel like I've said this for every show for the last 5 shows now, but Alec Bohm's frustration showing in body language, I have no problem with that. I don't want him to be happy that he's not producing. I want him to show some emotion. Just like I like when a guy hits a game-winning home run, they jump up and down, they're really excited about that. I like that. I like emotion. If you're not doing well, I want to see that. The guy that I always go back to is Scott Rowland. Horrible example for some people, but Scott Rowland showed no emotion ever. Like, he didn't even want to show excitement after a 2-home run game when baseball just came back after 9/11. Like, didn't even want to do it. Larry Bowa had to say, no, you go out there and you celebrate this. You go curtain call this. Like, didn't want to show emotion for that. Would you rather a guy that's just stone face all the time, or would you rather a guy where you go, okay, he knows he sucks right now and he needs to get it together? I'd rather see that guy, and Bohm is being that guy. And quite frankly, he has been that guy since the end of last year. And this has made a lot of people just want to kick him out of town. I don't want to kick him out of town. I want to see him get through this. He's been playing better at third base. No question, no problem there with Rob Thompson saying that. He's absolutely right. But I just don't understand for the life of me why a guy that's struggling so much in making contact, in guessing on the first pitch, and making good contact. Hey, good contact last night, fine, but that's not something you do a backflip over. I don't understand how a guy that's still struggling like this is not letting the game come to him. Instead, he's still trying to force situations. The old term quicksand comes to mind with Alec Bohm. Whether it's a rally-killing play, whether it's an opportunity to make something happen like he had in that 11th inning where the Phillies had the bases loaded. He had a runner on third base, and he had Castellanos on third base, and he chases down in the zone a changeup. I don't know if he was trying to make the adjustment at the last second to just get the bat head, the barrel of the bat out there and make something happen. But bottom line is it looked like he got fooled again. And he just flies out to center field. And I know some people, if you didn't see this, Castellanos is on third base. Bohm hits a ball to shallow center field. And some people might have wanted Castellanos to be sent home on that play to score. No way. No way. Michael Harris is second, great center fielder, great arm. He even on the throw, like the physical evidence was there. The throw was right on the money. Castellanos would have been out by 5 steps, so it wouldn't even been close. But it's more about the approach at the plate by Alec Bohm and getting fooled on a changeup. It was another rough performance from him. Castellanos, it definitely felt like he was a guy that was reverting back to old ways, and I do not give pitchers credit on this because this was just so blatantly obvious. And something did come to mind last night, I will say this, even more so to point to why it's on the hitter as opposed to the pitcher. Castellanos and Turner, as I pointed out, I think it was yesterday I was talking about the article, or 2 days ago I was talking about the article by Marcus Hayes, where he had referenced Kevin Long, the Phillies hitting coach, saying that the strike zone, the automatic umpires, the ABS system, that contributed to the Phillies having a great approach in spring training because they trusted the machine more so than they trusted the umpire. So Castellanos, I guess, let that just loose into the wind last night and didn't want to trust the umpire at all. And I understand why, because Mark Carlson was terrible. And the point I'm always going to go back to when it comes to the robo-umps is, okay, I understand that they're not perfect, but can they at least be consistent? Because that's what ultimately a big leaguer's looking for. Yeah, sure, in the vicinity of the strike zone, but also what's a strike in the first inning is going to be a strike in the 5th inning and a strike in the 9th inning, because that was not at all the case last night. Very, very frustrating to watch the Phillies go through this last night. Very frustrating, especially when you know a series like this is always going to come back and bite you. And look, yeah, you got to get the Braves back home later in the season. I don't think you're in Atlanta until June at the earliest, late June. But it takes a little bit of the air out of the balloon. One thing that makes you feel better is Bryce Harper still got a home run in this series, so he broke that awful streak since game 1, game 2 of the season. And Kyle Schwarber now, I didn't check this morning, but I know going into last night's game, Kyle Schwarber, how about this, was on pace. Was on pace for a 74 home run season. That ain't bad. And he's been on base every single one of these games so far this year. That's pretty good. Just 1 for 5 last night, unfortunately. And now, now he is on pace for 81 home runs after his home run last night. So there's a positive to take out of yesterday's game. I know a lot of people will look at tinkering with this lineup at this point in the season. I was a little surprised. Having said, and already acknowledged on the show today, I was looking at Alec Bohm like a guy that he should not be batting cleanup anymore. You got to move him. So then Rob Thompson comes out and does it. I was a little surprised that it happened. I was happy. It's a situation where my desire, I didn't think was going to match what the Phillies would actually do. I didn't think my desire was going to match the prediction. If you ask me what's going to happen, Topper's not going to move him. Because in the past, Rob Thompson, especially early in the season when the Phillies have had struggles before early in the season, last year being an exception, Rob Thompson has said, well, I don't like to make moves. After I make a decision to have a guy in a certain spot, I don't like to make moves abruptly because, what if that guy then struggles? Then I go back to the other guy to go in the other position, and then that guy's, already been taken out of the flow. He doesn't want to panic. He thinks it shows panic to the team. And he's got a point to it, usually. But I think it was so blatantly obvious that he had to make a change with Alec Bohm. Now, I hope Bohm's struggles and demotion don't all of a sudden turn on Nick Castellanos' season or turn Nick Castellanos' season around. And I would certainly hope that an 0 for 5 performance with 5 strikeouts last night is not going to become the new norm for Nick Castellanos. But I was a little surprised when Rob Thompson, Mr. I got to stand pat with some of these guys, especially in the early goings of the year, because I don't want to show panic and also show that I don't know what I can show. I don't know what I'm doing. 2 years ago, he said that. I thought this guy would be good here. Now all of a sudden he's not working out. Now I got to move him. A little surprised that it happened. But I do think it was the right call. And I'm still standing by it. Now it's a matter of whether or not you're going to ride this out until August. Because I got confidence that Nick Castellanos is going to be fine after this. I think he's going to get back to what we saw really through the first 10 games of the season. Last night, you definitely saw more of the one-arm stuff. You didn't see the two-handed finishes or anything like that. It was I made a reference last night on the postcast of, if you remember Pat Burrell had this patented shuffle move where there'd be a pitch right down the middle of the plate, and Pat Burrell would move his butt out of the way. I was like, dude, it's right down the plate. What are you looking at? Castellanos, he'd have that like pose at the end of his bats too. Castellanos kind of has that same pose now. Like the lunge of Castellanos is troublesome. But let's just hope it's the one game for him. As far as anything else, one of the biggest surprises of this game, again, I'm very surprised and pleased by seeing what the bullpen did, but Jordan Romano throughout the night last night, or throughout his inning last night, very calm. Velocity was better. Control was better. Didn't get every pitch called, so no rattling there for Jordan Romano. Maybe it was the beard. Maybe it was the mechanical issue. Saw one report out there. I think it was Todd Zalecki that put it out there saying that they dealt with a mechanical issue with Jordan Romano, and now he looks like hopefully the two-time All-Star that the Phillies acquired in the offseason. But that was all one inning giving you hope, and now the Phillies hope to keep that going, of what at least they got from Jordan Romano when they take on the St. Louis Cardinals for 3 games starting at 8:15 tonight. Aaron Nola on the hill for the Phillies. So that's the way that's going to go. 11 innings last night. About a 5.5 hour, 7:15 start time. It wrapped right before 1 o'clock in the morning. Good times. Good times by your Phillies. Had this thought while I was watching the game last night. Last thought on the Phillies. And it continues to be what we all fear. And I know a lot of people just look at the bullpen and say that's what you're concerned. And I get that. After all this time, absolutely, you could fear the bullpen. Sure. Last night wasn't a night for that. It's this lineup just all of a sudden disappearing. It's this lineup not hitting with 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. If you're 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position, then the long ball's got to be there. And the long ball was not there. Kyle Schwarber had the home run in the 3rd inning. Great. Kyle Schwarber's been your best hitter so far this season. But that wasn't there throughout the game. 1 inning. You didn't get anything else until you were literally gifted a runner in scoring position in extra innings. And when you scored in extra innings, it was a bases-loaded walk. Johan Rojas. By the way, now that I'm thinking of Johan Rojas, he steps up to the plate in the 9th inning. I know I'm always very specific about when I'm pissed off about guys swinging at the first pitch. Hey, here's an opportunity for you to not swing at the first pitch. If you're sitting on your butt for 5.5 hours and all of a sudden your skipper says to you, hey, grab a bat and take some hacks, all right? Maybe take a pitch or two where you haven't been doing anything. Hey, maybe, just maybe. No. He comes in the 9th inning, records the final out of the 9th inning, and he's hacking away, man. Hacking away. Now, he ended up having a much better at-bat when he drew the walk with the bases loaded to give the Phillies a 2-1 lead in the top of the 11th inning. And then in the bottom of the 11th inning, that's when... Oh, and Kyle Schwarber, by the way, side note, just missed a grand slam after all that. Bohm flew out to center. I mentioned that play. Stott worked a walk, bases loaded, 2 outs. Rojas gets the 3-2 count, walks. Run comes in. And then Kyle Schwarber records the last out of the inning on a deep fly ball to right field that he just got under a little too much. And if he hits that on the nose a little bit more, you're talking about a grand slam, which the Phillies would have really needed had I known. I would have been really rooting for at the time, especially knowing that Joe Ross was going to come in, face Austin Riley, who immediately got a RBI double to tie the game, and then Marcell Ozuna got the 2-run home run to walk it off Joe Ross. So not a good series in Atlanta for Joe Ross, to say the least. But that definitely drove me bonkers through last night's game. So, yeah, the thing that we worry about is that the offense just disappears, and it certainly disappeared in last night's game. 0 for 10. Unbelievable. Well, I guess I shouldn't say unbelievable if it's a thing that haunts us. Anyway, couple other thoughts. No, that's it. That's the last one on the Phillies. Eagles add a wide receiver, Terrace Marshall, former LSU wide receiver, former second-round pick, joins the Eagles 40 time at his combine in 2021. 3 years with the Panthers, then they let him go, joins the Raiders, joins San Francisco. They cut him before the season. That was that. Now he's with the Eagles. Training camp body, depth, let's see what you got type of situation here for a former second-round pick. That's all I think that is. Yesterday, I also saw a little bit more from the Brandon Graham interview with Kay Adams. There's a situation that I find really interesting here with the Eagles, and it has to do with their culture. And every single free agent trade, every acquisition made by the Eagles, they all talk about culture. I compared Brandon Graham's situation as far as the 10% of him that is unretired, not committed to retirement just yet. I compared that to a former Eagle in Jeremiah Trotter. How Trotter came back in 2009 after being out for a year, and he came back to play because the Eagles had nobody at linebacker. He texted Andy Reid and said, "Hey, I'm still in shape, you know." And the Eagles actually signed him, and he played. That's the only 10%. I think that's the 10% that's left of Brandon Graham that might unretire if the Eagles really desperately need him. But it got me thinking about something else yesterday when I was watching a little bit more of that interview with Kay Adams. And I in no way, shape, or form is going to be the same circumstance as far as the same title that's given. But our old friend Hugh Douglas, if you remember, when he retired, he became the team ambassador. And he was around the team. Now, there was an unfortunate circumstance that happened with him being around the team that may or may not have to do with a fight around a hot tub with Terrell Owens. I don't think Brandon Graham is going to get a sash that says ambassador on it or anything, but I do think Brandon Graham is going to be in a very similar role in terms of still being around this team and still being here for young guys to help them develop. You don't really have that other guy in here that is going to be a true purebred Eagle that's going to help take these guys to the next level in a leadership standpoint. And Brandon he's talked about in his career, Hugh Douglas for those undersized defensive ends. He talked about a guy like Trent Cole that was that leader to him coming into the fold here in Philadelphia. The Eagles don't have that guy on the roster right now. Like Uche, obviously a veteran, obviously has had success in the past, but it's all been elsewhere. Azeez Ojulari, career giant to this point. Josh Sweat is gone. That veteran presence isn't there. Nolan Smith, loud, a leader. Love the fact that, and I pointed this out at the time, Nick Sirianni at his little media powwow during the owners' meetings, when he was asked about leadership, the first name he mentioned was Nolan Smith. You can't really look at him right now as a seasoned veteran with 2 years under his belt. 1 year really good, 1 year not so much. But I would very much envision that Brandon Graham is going to be the guy that's going to be around this Eagles team a lot this upcoming season. I don't know what the role's going to be. Jeffrey Lurie, when he had addressed the media, talked about how, well, I haven't had that dinner with Brandon Graham yet to discuss what he's going to be doing, but I know he's going to be around here. I don't think he's around here in the sense that he's coming back to play, is what I'm telling you. But I think he's going to be around here in the sense that culture is going to be the thing that he is preaching more than anything. Patience, the right attitude, what Vic Fangio wants, what Clint Hurt wants, when he's talking to these new guys coming into the fold here, whether they're guys that have a couple of years under their belt or they're rookies, or they're Jalix Hunt, who's moving into his second year in the NFL. I think BG is going to be around this team. So for anyone that really perked up and went, 10% chance of him playing, he ain't playing. All right, and we should all hope that he doesn't play for the simple reason that if he's playing, that means other guys have gone down. And I don't want those guys going down. I want those guys accelerating. I want those guys improving, maturing, getting better and better every day. But I want him around in terms of being that guy that will be that cultural influence in the locker room. Now, look, on the offensive side of the football, I think you got you're set in Jalen Hurts. I think you're very much set in Saquon Barkley. Matter of fact, I know it. And the thing that gives me so much confidence about that is how many times did we hear in the season, in a great season that the Eagles just had, before they even won the Super Bowl, before they even clinched the playoffs, how great was it that you could hear in this great year, we had to have tough conversations, but we had tough conversations and we came out better for it. If you could have those tough conversations and those tough conversations end with Devontae Smith crying on your shoulder during a Super Bowl victory, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, they're feuding. They're dabbing each other up on the sidelines of the Super Bowl. If they can right the ship throughout the entire process and journey with those tough conversations and have it not spill over into play being terrible, I'd say culture and leadership is pretty damn good. But on the defensive side of the football, you did lose leaders. I mean, say what you will about Darius Slay, pro or con, whatever you were with him, he was a leader on this team. And he knew who the leaders were. And I do think at the time he made the comments about Reed Blankenship being that next leader in the secondary, I think he knew that the Eagles were looking to move Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, even though I do think his leadership was great on the defensive side of things as well. But I think the Eagles are going to be looking at this as Jalen Carter needs to take that step forward. Nolan Smith needs to prove that he can be that guy. Quinyon Mitchell seems to be more of the quiet type. Cooper DeJean seems to be a little bit more of a talker. This is going by everything I've heard since the season ended, not just publicly, but behind the scenes as well. Listen to these guys talk about who's going to be the guy to take that baton. But as great as that's going to be, to have a veteran presence, a guy that's been through it, a guy that's a two-time Super Bowl champion, a guy that's been through struggles, you can't overlook how valuable that is. Because not everybody that comes in here is just going to be, off and running. It's not like you look at an offensive lineman coming here to Philadelphia and be like, he's met Jeff Stoutland, now he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, it's not how it works everywhere. You look at edge rushers that might have that struggle. And I do still think the Eagles are going to take an edge rusher first or second round of this draft. But whoever's going to be coming in here, if they have those struggles, who better to talk to than Brandon Graham? And I love the fact that in his retirement speech, he talked about making it through the other side. How valuable. A guy like Nolan Smith that had a very down rookie year, how great was it for him to have Brandon Graham right there? You want to talk about getting through struggles? Yeah, you had 1 year of struggles as a rookie. Brandon Graham had 3 or 4 to start his career. Literally acknowledging his bust status. And then how about that? His wife is the one that's like, well, go ahead and do something about it. Stop sulking. Do something about it. So I don't think Brandon Graham's playing, bottom line. But I think when it comes to the culture of this team, I think he's going to be a guy on the defensive side of things that's going to be around that team, coaching through any rough moments they might have, either as a team as a whole, as a defense as a whole, or individually. Just going through training camp, maybe it's not sinking in, maybe it's not sticking, maybe that make or break moment happens this season for some young guys coming in here trying to prove themselves. Who better than Brandon Graham to try to tap in and say, hey, no, you can get through this. Here's how you're going to do it. Who better? Also, I think having a guy like Zach Bond around, who also went through those struggles, can certainly help in that regard as well. Don't want to leave him out of it as well, because a guy certainly wasn't labeled a bust by any means. You're not talking about a first-round pick coming in here in Zach Bond like you were with Brandon Graham. You're talking about a guy who already established himself in the NFL as a special teamer, occasional outside linebacker, getting in the right system at the right time under the right defensive coordinator, and great things happen for him. So I think a lot of that goes into helping this squad. Hey, this is Friday. I'm just looking down. I'm just looking down at the chat. I see hardcore for all. Jake Elliott. Don't forget about him. You're right. Jake Elliott. Don't forget about him. This is the last show I'm going to be doing here with the 76ers still in action. They end their season over the weekend. They got the Hawks tonight, and then Sunday, I think they're back at it Sunday for their final game. Yeah. They host the Bulls. If by some weird reason you happen to catch yourself watching the Sixers, I'm going to tell you the three things that I enjoyed about watching every game until probably the last three of this NBA season, doing the Locked On 76ers postcast and all that. And I forget about the beginning of the year, forget about Joel Embiid and Paul George and Tyrese Maxey and any of that. I'm talking about the end of the year when it sucked. 12-game losing streak, fighting to be the worst team you could possibly be from an organizational standpoint. I'm going to tell you three things. The first thing is how much I enjoyed watching guys play their ass off. And for me, it was a much different thing than the process. The process, you're like, okay, this guy's going to play hard. He just wants to be somewhere else. And good Lord willing, he will be somewhere else. I think the crown jewel of the process era Sixers is a TJ McConnell, a guy nobody expected to be anything in the NBA. And he turned himself into a player, rotational player elsewhere, certainly. But I think he's the crown jewel in terms of process players. He's the crown jewel, the guy to make the most out of it. Credit to him for that. Watching these guys this year wasn't like the process where, oh, they'll be here this year and then they'll be gone next year. I watched this year, especially the last 25 games or so, I watched this year as if it was a tryout for next year to be on a basketball team that, with good Lord willing, man, fate, please be in our favor. Good Lord, we have Joel Embiid somewhat healthy. Look, for the record, I think he is done as far as the MVP. I don't think that's going out on a limb at all. I think he's done competing for MVP awards. I think his best years are behind him. I wish the Sixers would have traded him 2 years ago. I was in the minority then, just saying I would take calls on it. If Rudy Gobert is getting traded for 3 first-round picks, what can you get for Joel Embiid? It's not like he's going to get healthier as he goes on. Literally my standpoint 2 years ago. But enough of that. Then you get something of value with Joel Embiid next year. Again, best years behind him. But if you could just get 20, 25 a game from him, if you could get defense from him, rebounds from him, help with spacing, turn into more of a back to the basket center, you get that from him, along with Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, blah, blah, blah. Get the year you were supposed to have this year, next year. This is the light I watched the end of the season with. Who can help that team? Jared McCain coming back. That was the first real, gut punch to the season. And then I'd love to see. So watching these guys kind of have that audition tryout for next year, that was a different light that I watched the process years in. So with that being said, I enjoyed watching these guys play their asses off. I enjoyed games where, Jeff Doughton Jr. goes, gets 30 points. I enjoyed games with Quentin Grimes getting 28 points, 30 points, whatever it might have been. I enjoyed games like that. And I enjoyed watching Quentin Grimes, this is the second thing, play his butt off at the end of the season to at least show maybe other NBA teams, but hopefully the 76ers, that he could certainly be a rotational player. So the second thing, after enjoying just watching these guys bust their asses for the end of the year, I've enjoyed watching a guy like Quentin Grimes play for the Sixers team, and he is without question a rotational player on a playoff team. And next year, I hope he's a rotational player on the 76ers. He's played himself onto this team next year as far as I'm concerned. After that, really the only thing I find salvageable from the end of the year, other than Quentin Grimes, is Adem Bona. His athleticism is unreal. And it's weird saying this. Look, don't get me wrong. The talent of Joel Embiid is far exceeding. But one thing Adem Bona is that is far different than Joel Embiid is a wildly athletic center. You don't see Joel Embiid get a rebound and like go right back up and slam it home. You don't see, oops and stuff like that. You don't see it. Adem Bona is that guy. He is that wildly athletic center with springs in his shoes. It's an aspect of the game you just don't see, and we haven't seen for a while in Philadelphia. Now, who am I drafting for? I'm still taking don't get me wrong. Adem Bona is a second-round pick for a reason. But just seeing that style of play and see him get better and better and better. Just missed his 5th triple-double the other night. There's definitely things you got to see him work on. Stronger with the ball in the post, softer hands, free throw shooting, certainly things you want to see him work on in the offseason. But he has played himself, obviously, onto the team next year. But if you do bring back, if Andre Drummond, who's got a player option at $5 million that I think he'll exercise and be back with the Sixers next year, he's your number 3 center. And on this team, you're going to need a third-string center. But the backup to Joel Embiid next year, assuming he's healthy to start the season, which I know is a big assumption, as I always say, it's the biggest if in sports, then Adem Bona is your backup center. If you're able to take from this year and give to next year, I think what you take out of this year is Quentin Grimes and Adem Bona. Quentin Grimes being in the rotation next year and Adem Bona being your backup center. That's what I've learned. I've also learned that Nick Nurse has an extraordinary amount of patience. For him only to get thrown out of one game, especially down the stretch, that's something. That's something. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use promo code Farzy. Get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Game Time app has you covered. And how about this? Don't forget about the Game Time Picks feature, which allows you to filter out all the fluff and get right down to it. The best seats at the best prices. And also on the Game Time app, you can view your seat's vantage points before you buy the tickets. So you take the guesswork out of buying tickets on the Game Time app. Hey, April sent me something. And while we're talking about this, April sent me a funny thing on social media. Just about, it ended with like, we still can't, like basically Eagles fans still can't believe this happened. Phillies fans, I'm terrified about the offense. And then like Sixers fans, it was like tickets were $9. The lowest I saw for the Sixers, tickets were $2. I'm going to go on the Game Time app right now. Okay. So tonight, they play the Hawks at 7 o'clock. Tickets on the Game Time app are $3. They play the Bulls on Sunday. Isn't that Fan Appreciation Day? Tickets are $3 on the Game Time app. So download the Game Time app, create an account. Use promo code Farzy, get $20 off. I don't know if they give you $17. I don't know how it works. But anyway, take full advantage of the Game Time app. What time is it? Game time. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. How about Sky Motorcars? SkyMotorcars.com. Check out Brett's amazing inventory at SkyMotorcars.com. Speaking of April, good morning, April. Wine Niners Wine. Good morning, Farzy and friends. Kylie Kelsey, not going to lie. Had Leanne Kreischer on. Pretty funny stuff. I don't know Leanne Kreischer. Is that... Hold on. Oh, come on with the buttons. Oh, okay. I didn't want to jump to the conclusion there, but Bert Kreischer's wife, she's a film producer? All right. Cool. I could see how she'd be funny. Wonder what we blame. I have not blamed Rory. I have not blamed Rory the cat for anything. I dimed her out last time. The only time. Everything else, 100% on me. Bats were cold last night, says April. They absolutely were. Kevin, hello. Good morning, Farzy Show, and everyone. The game should have never resumed. Yeah, I looked at Doppler. And I saw around 11 o'clock, 11:15, there was a window. There was like a big bunch of green stuff floating by the stadium, and then there was like clear skies, and then after that, a while now, another big glop of green, red, and yellow stuff. And I was like, oh, they might try to get this game in. And I'm like, oh, they are going to get this game in, unfortunately. And I'm like, it's a shame these guys aren't divisional opponents that, will face each other later in the season. But whatevs. Mullet, hello. Hopefully everyone who stayed up makes it through the day. I know, right? Sean Gillespie, hello. Speaking of, hold on, Mullet, speaking of this, I was doing some man stuff yesterday. And I was like, this would be a nice game tonight. Jesus Luzardo, Spencer Schwellenbach would be a pitcher's duel, just like we thought game one would be. But this one actually was shaping up to be exactly that. So I was like, this won't be a late night. Didn't check the forecast in Atlanta. So I just got a pole saw, which is basically a chainsaw at the end of a 12-foot pole. Trimming some trees back in the yard. So not just doing that, but also physically using an axe. Excuse me. To chop some trees and stuff. Clearing some space, doing some cleaning, spring cleaning in the backyard, right? And I sat down on the sofa and I was like, damn, I'm exhausted. I hope this game doesn't go long. So I had my first espresso of the game. And then I made it through the 2 hours and 45-minute rain delay. And then, right, like I said, at the first pitch, I went, oh, damn, I'm tired again. So I broke the rule. I think I had a 5 espresso day yesterday. Broke the rule. Too much physical exertion during the day. Sean Gillespie, hello. Flyers tied for worst team in. Danny needs to spend time with Howie. Worst team in what? In Philly? Sean Kilrain. Phillies went 4 for 27 with runners in scoring position and left 29 runners on base during the Braves series. Gross. Jason A., good morning. Wine Nice Wine. Mark's next house is back on the market. Bobby Clark's South Jersey home with Flyers pool just listed at $1.2 million. I saw that was on the market a while ago, but it's back on the market. I think it was Bobby Clark's home and Mike Schmidt's homes. I think their homes were on the market around the same time. Bohm will fulfill a rumor of being sent to Detroit if his hitting continues to be bad. Jonathan Harvey, what's up, bud? Brandon O'Hara, what's going on? Get Bohm off this team. Jake S., dude, I'm done with Bohm. Wanted him gone in the offseason. Never going to win a ring with him. Wait and see. He's actually playing worse at third base. Really? I don't agree with worse at third base. I agree he sucks right now. Philly Magic 365. As soon as Schwarber came 10 feet short, I knew it was over. Yeah, 1-run game. I didn't feel good. Not getting a hit with the bases loaded didn't feel good. Castellanos and Bohm going 0 for 5 each. 0 for 10 total. Did not feel good. And Philly Magic, I like how you end that with good morning, by the way. Yeah, good morning to you. Strike zone was worse than my marriage. I live alone, just FYI. Thank you, Philly. That's not a good marriage if you're living alone, you know what I mean? Also, who was trying to normalize? Was it Cameron Diaz? Trying to normalize sleeping in different beds if you're married? Or different rooms, even, if you're married? Try to normalize that? I never get away with that. My wife is such a clinger, man. She's just such a clinger. But they have their pitch clock, so lose the extra innings ghost runner. It's a different thing, hardcore for all. The ghost runner thing, this is what I say about it. I don't like it, but I hate more of the fact that that baseball evolved to need this. Because it's all about protecting the pitcher's arms. If you're not going to have any rules, according to Matt Strom, to protect pitchers, the only rule that you have right now is put a runner on second base so that you get these over with quickly and you're not burning through your bullpen and guys getting hurt and whatever. Yeah. I know we all miss Wilson Valdez pitching in the 17th and 18th and 19th innings, I think it was, against the Reds that one time. And was it Danny Baez that all of a sudden pitched 3 innings and then was done after that? There you go, Sean Gillespie. Family night at the Sixers. Oh, there you go, Jason A. Impressed. We got a Sixers comment. I've been impressed with the Dembona. Good for you. All right, you and me both. We're the two. Farsley doing manly work. You're damn right. Not afraid to get these hands dirty. Richard Hess, downward trend since the World Series continues. Phillies do not have a cleanup hitter. I was just thinking about it the other day because Ryan Howard was at the second game of this series, and I was like, when's the last time the Phillies had a bopper? Like really a bopper, batting cleanup consistently, not occasionally this year. And it seems like we're not doing it anymore. Kyle Schwarber batting cleanup. When's the last time he just had a big bopper? Batting fourth. Broke the spring seal and cut the grass. It's on. Oh, you did? Did you? That's one of the reasons I got to clean up the backyard so I can cut the grass. 5 espresso a day is wild behavior. Not for me. Not for me. I just polished off my first one of this day. There you go, right there. There you go. That looks like I put in some work on that baby. Wine Niners wine. Mark's wife is an angel, just for clarity. You're welcome. She is. God bless her. She really is. Sean Gillespie, really hoping your wife never watches the show. She's actually standing behind the camera. She's holding a camera the entire time. Anyway. If Mark shows up with a black eye, we know the clinger. Or the clinger listen to the pod. She enjoys this. I wouldn't say if it wasn't hilarious to her. You know what I mean? Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great, as per usual. Let's get to the morning rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Phillies, 8:15 start time tonight in St. Louis because the Midwest. Aaron Nola against Andre Palante, I believe is how you say the gentleman's name. Aaron Nola 0-2. Hey, now Aaron Nola's not the only one that's lost games for the Phillies. Go figure. Aaron Nola 0-2 on the season with a 6.35 ERA. Palante 1-0 with a 3.86 ERA. You got the 76ers back at it tonight. They're on the road. No, they got Atlanta Hawks in South Philly. Yes, is there 2 games left, both in South Philly. Sorry, they're done with that little road trip. Back in South Philly tonight, 7 o'clock start time. That's when that goes down. And your Flyers will look to win 2 in a row when they're back at it tomorrow afternoon against the Islanders. Speaking of not having many games left in a season, the Flyers have 4 games left, including tomorrow against the Islanders, 12:30 puck drop. And then after that, a double dip at the Wells Fargo Center. You got your Philadelphia Wings back on the turf at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. I will be on hand for that. I'm actually going to try to do my Phillies postcast from the Wells Fargo Center via my phone after the Flyers let out and the Phillies wrap up. 2:15 start time over the weekend. 8:15 and then back-to-back 2:15 start times in St. Louis. So, I'll be with you guys early evening tomorrow on Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Flyers to wind things down. By the way, they got the Islanders, then they're at Ottawa, take on the Claude Giroux Senators. Then host Columbus Blue Jackets for the last home game of the season on the 15th. Don't forget to do your taxes. And then on the 17th, they're in Buffalo to take on the Sabres for their last game of the year. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You guys are great as per usual. I'll be back with you guys on Locked On Sports Phillies, Locked On Phillies YouTube channel after tonight's game against St. Louis Cardinals. Connor Thomas has you guys covered daily for your Locked On Phillies daily podcast. I have you covered for your Locked On Phillies postcast after each and every game. See you guys tonight on Locked On Phillies. YouTube channel. Stay tuned in about 18 minutes on Jacob Media. You got Xander Krause and John McMullen joining you on Birds 365. So don't miss that. Like and subscribe to Jacob Media. Like and subscribe to the Farzy Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to Locked On Phillies YouTube channel as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Back with you guys tonight. And then, if not, see you guys Monday. Bye.